Of course, being a public holiday today, there's only one paper that's come out today. So yesterday seemed to have been the final papers for this week for the other papers. But let's look at the Mail and Guardian and what an issue of the Mail and Guardian, in fact. So we'll just take a look at some of those stories that are on the front of the paper. I started reading this, and it's quite an interesting one. The Ingonyama Trust, and the full story revealed at last. The IFP, the King, and the secret 1994 election deal. Quite a story here.
It certainly is, and they go into a bit of detail on this particular story. Naturally, it is their lead, and they talk about how the creation of the Ingonyama Trust was essentially a sweetheart deal, which Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi has, of course, always refuted. And they go on to say this is how the Ingonyama Trust was repeatedly described, as that sweetheart deal with millions of hectares of land in return for the Inkatha Freedom Party not boycotting the 1994 elections. And so the details of this controversial agreement, as they put it, outlined in this article today, talks about secret meetings on airport runways to the KwaZulu-Natal legislature, and they look at how the trust was actually created.
Quite an incredible story, so it's well worth taking a look at that story. A lot of questions have been answered in this one. Then also on the front page of the Mail and Guardian, there's a look at I think what they talk to is what's happening at Eskom, and the headline is the drug that's killing Eskom. And they say that the current electricity pricing policy rewards inefficiencies. Fix it and the power utility will have a shot at recovery. That's what they say here. Before Eskom started building new capacity, the drug I'm referring to was a mild sedative, so no one was worried. In full disclosure, I was one of the people administering it. This is an article by Mike Rousseau. But what is this drug? It's simple. The drug is the current pricing policy for determining how much Eskom charges for electricity. And you can read more about that. I'm not going to read it to you. You can go and check that out.
Yeah, and they go into some other stories as well. There's this thing they do about, looking at the week in numbers, and this week they talk about that SASPO strike that we interviewed on yesterday here on the show, and it says that 73,000, that's the number of South African Society of Bank Official Union members who are preparing to go on strike next month over those proposed job cuts. Wow. And you heard what the representative, Mr. Joe Kokela, had to say yesterday, that essentially they will cripple the banking industry on those 2 days, because they will withdraw their services, their members, at least for those 2 days.
Wow. Okay, so the other stories focusing in on the passing of Toni Morrison at the age of 88, and she is a friend of mine. She gathers a man. This is just an article that they've written. This is a quote from one of her books. She is a friend of mine. She gathers me, man, the pieces I am. She gathered them and give them back to me in all the right order. Taken from Toni Morrison's novel Beloved. This quote can, after the American author's death this week, be taken as a representation of a historical legacy, or at the very least an honest reflection of how she was regarded by many of her readers. Morrison exists beyond the confines of literature, offering her works as a part of a canon that should exist as a blueprint for a free existence. So lovely, lovely article there as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's about,
that's the Mail and Guardian.
Mail and Guardian, the only paper we we have to bring you headlines on today.
Exactly.
So that's that.
Yeah, indeed. All right, it is 19 minutes before the top of the hour. Let's take a look and see what the weather holds in store for us on the